With his best ally in the world, the British Prime Minister Tony Blair is calling for Iran and Syria to get involved in the search for peace in Iraq. Now, President Bush has been resisting those calls, and talk of bargaining with Iran is raising some questions about the president's nominee for the Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates. American Morning's Dan Lothian has more for us this morning. He's in Washington, D.C. Good morning to you, Dan.
Good morning, Soledad. Well, President Bush says he's looking forward to interesting ideas in the search for solutions in Iraq. But every step of this process is being closely scrutinized, and Robert Gates, past and present, is in the spotlight.
It's a tall order for Secretary of Defense nominee Robert Gates. Find a solution for success in Iraq.
In many ways, the expectations may be too high.
With so much at stake, there's no shortage of options.
We should pressure the White House to commence the phased redeployment of U.S. troops from Iraq in 4 to 6 months.
Timetables are being discussed along with once unthinkable partnerships with countries like Iran and Syria.
A major part of the answer to Iraq lies not in Iraq itself, but outside it.
Gates, fresh from his stint at the Iraq Study Group, has perhaps a fresh perspective. But will that make his job any easier? And what can he do that Donald Rumsfeld couldn't?
He's not going to come in with a world view that Rumsfeld had, that, America could basically solve all of the world's problems. Bob Gates will pay more attention to his staff and to the professionals.
But Frank Gaffney at the Center for Security Policy says changing the guard doesn't guarantee success.
You're going to get some changes, all right. But I think they're going to make things worse, not better.
Gaffney says Rumsfeld had a better understanding of the nature of the problem. And there are still lingering questions about Gates's past. Accusations that the former CIA director slanted intelligence on the Soviet Union and Contra rebels to support his administration's policy.
The important thing with Mr. Gates is whether or not he is independent, whether or not he's going to speak truth to power.
But Gates has always maintained his analysis was honest. Larry Korb at the Center for American Progress agrees.
I think that was Gates's view rather than him trying to please his civilian masters.
Some like to point out that while so much attention is being focused on leadership at the Pentagon, the ultimate decision on what happens in Iraq is up to the president. The defense secretary will wield a lot of power, but the president makes the call. Soledad?
Dan Lothian for us in Washington, D.C. this morning. Thank you, Dan. Miles?